Welcome back to Inherited Dawn, a One Piece podcast. We are breaking down the classics one chapter at a time. I'm Franky.
And I'm Robin. Today we're on chapter 59, Duty.
And what a title, because this chapter is all about what you owe people. And Luffy has the most direct, most insane, and maybe the most correct answer to a problem I have ever seen in my life.
He solves a hostage situation by destroying the hostage.
Exactly. He just short-circuits the entire premise of the fight. It's brilliant. It's terrifying. It's pure Luffy. If you want to keep up with a captain whose brain works on a completely different plane of existence, maybe drop a follow so you don't miss where his logic takes us next.
It's a very strange place to be. Let's get into it.
All right, so we open right where we left off. Pearl, the Iron Wall, is just wailing on Sanji. Not even a fight. Sanji's on his knees, hands at his sides, just taking blow after blow to the face. The panels are brutal. You see the impact, the blood flying from Sanji's mouth. Oda doesn't shy away from it at all.
He has completely given up defending himself. He's made a decision. He will die before he allows anyone to take the Baratie from Zeff. It's a continuation of the code we saw earlier. He will not raise a hand or a foot against a customer. And in this context, Krieg is still a customer he fed. But it's more than that now. This is a penance.
A penance for what? For bringing this trouble to their door? That's not his fault. Jin was the one who brought them here. It's so frustrating to watch because we know Sanji can fight. We've seen him take out pirates with a single kick. He could probably wipe the floor with this Pearl guy if he just decided to, but he's just taking it.
From his perspective, it is his fault. He's the one who showed kindness to Jin, an act which directly led to the arrival of the entire fleet. He feels responsible. But the core of his inaction is his concept of debt. To him, the life Zeff gave him is inextricably linked to this restaurant, to Zeff's dream. If that dream is threatened, his life is the only currency he has of equal value to protect it.
And the other chefs, Patty and Carne, they're screaming at him to fight back. They're his buddies, his co-workers, and they're watching him get pummeled into the deck. They don't understand. But Sanji just says he's decided to die. This is how he repays his debt to Zeff, which is, man, that is a twisted view of gratitude. It's like he thinks his life is a loan that's being called in.
It's a very specific, almost feudal sense of honor. A samurai might commit seppuku to restore honor to their lord. Sanji sees his potential death in a similar light. He's not just dying, he's making a statement. He's demonstrating the depth of his gratitude to Zeff in the only way he thinks is absolute. It's a flawed philosophy, certainly, but it comes from a place of immense, unwavering loyalty.
But Luffy is not having any of it. He's watching this, and you can see him getting visibly angry. The panels of Luffy are just as important as the panels of Sanji getting hit. You see his brow furrow, his teeth grit. This isn't the usual "you hurt my friend" anger. This is a deeper, more philosophical rage. He's angry at Sanji. He yells at him, asking him what good his death would be. He says if Sanji dies, he can't repay anything.
This is a fundamental philosophical difference between them, and it's one of the core themes of the entire series. Sanji sees his life as a tool, a finite resource that can be spent to protect a legacy or repay a debt. His value is external, tied to Zeff and the Baratie. Luffy sees a friend's life as the absolute highest value, period. It has intrinsic worth. Nothing is worth dying for if your friends lose you, because the future you could have together is more valuable than any past debt or static object.
Yes, that's exactly it. He doesn't get it. To Luffy, a debt is something you repay by living. You repay a meal by saying thank you and enjoying it. You repay someone saving your life by living that life to the fullest. You don't repay it by throwing it away at the first sign of trouble. He doesn't see why Sanji's self-destruction is some noble act. To Luffy, it's just a waste. It's him abandoning his own future, his own dream of finding the All Blue.
And that's a concept Luffy simply can't accept, for himself or for anyone he considers a friend. Remember what he told Zoro after the fight with Mihawk? Zoro was ready to die, proclaiming that he'd rather die than be defeated. Luffy accepts that drive, but he was furious at the idea of Zoro actually throwing his life away for a principle. Here, it's even worse. Sanji isn't dying in a glorious battle for his own dream. He's passively accepting death for someone else's. To Luffy, that's just incomprehensible.
So, while this intense philosophical drama is unfolding, Krieg is just loving this on his galleon. He sees Sanji's resolve as foolishness and thinks this is all going according to his plan. He's got the whole restaurant right where he wants them, paralyzed by their own code.
He thinks he has all the leverage. The ship is the target. Sanji, one of their key fighters, is willing to die for the ship. Therefore, Krieg controls the situation. From a standard tactical point of view, his logic is sound. He's identified his opponent's greatest weakness, their sentimentality, and is exploiting it perfectly.
But he's not accounting for the variable, the walking, talking embodiment of chaos theory, the one guy on the deck who doesn't play by anyone else's rules. Luffy is just standing there, watching all this, and you can see the gears turning in his head. It's not complex strategy. It's the most brutally simple A to B logic you can imagine.
He hears Krieg say the ship is the target. He sees Sanji willing to die for the ship. He understands that the ship is the central point of conflict, the linchpin holding this entire hostage situation together.
So what does he do? He solves the equation by erasing one of the variables. He stretches his leg way, way up into the sky, past the masthead of the Baratie. The panel is epic. His leg just keeps going, a tiny foot against the clouds. He yells, "Gum, gum!"
And everyone stops. The fighting, the yelling, it all just halts as every single person looks up. Sanji and Zeff both look up, and I think they realize what's about to happen a split second before it does. There's this dawning collective horror on their faces. They know Luffy's an idiot, but they're about to find out he's a very specific, very effective kind of idiot.
Battle axe! And he brings his heel down with all his force, not on Krieg, not on Pearl, but on the side of the Baratie itself. He splinters the massive wooden fish fin that serves as the restaurant's main deck and balcony. There's this massive crack sound effect that dominates the whole page.
He completely severs it from the main body of the restaurant. The entire platform they're fighting on just detaches. It tilts, groans, and then slides into the sea. The battlefield is gone. The hostage is gone. The entire strategic foundation of Krieg's attack is now floating away in pieces.
He destroyed the battlefield. He destroyed the entire reason they were fighting in the first place. My guy looked at the board, decided he didn't like the game, and just snapped the whole thing in half. I will never get over this moment. It's one of the most Luffy things Luffy has ever done. It defines his entire approach to problem solving.
It is the most direct and chaotic solution imaginable. It's Alexander the Great cutting the Gordian knot. Why try to untie it when you can just sever it? The Krieg pirates are in shock, the chefs are in shock, and Sanji is absolutely livid.
Of course he is. Luffy just took a sledgehammer to his most sacred treasure. He gets right in Luffy's face, grabbing him by his vest, screaming at him, asking if he knows what he's just done. He says that ship is Zeff's treasure, more important than his own life. The steam is just pouring off of him.
And Luffy, with zero hesitation, just screams right back. Then why were you trying to die? He completely flips it on him. He doesn't engage with the argument about the ship's value. He goes right back to the core issue.
It's such a perfect distillation of Luffy's entire worldview. It's flawless circular logic that somehow makes perfect sense. This thing is more important than my life. Okay, but you were about to lose your life, which would mean you couldn't protect the thing anyway, so my way, you're still alive to figure it out. The logic is flawless if you're him. It's insane, but you can't argue with it.
It's a rejection of martyrdom. Luffy is essentially telling Sanji that his life has more value than any symbol, no matter how important that symbol is. A living cook who can still chase his dream and protect his friends is infinitely more valuable than a pristine restaurant with a dead cook inside. The potential of a life is always greater than the history of an object.
You can rebuild a restaurant. You can't bring back a friend. Simple as that. It's the same logic he'll carry with him for the entire journey. And the two of them are just nose to nose, screaming at each other, while the wreckage of the Baratie floats around them, and the Krieg pirates are just watching like, should we do something? Are they on the same side? It's an incredible moment.
It is, because neither of them is wrong from their own perspective. Sanji's sense of duty is profound and deeply felt. It's the bedrock of his character. But Luffy's devotion to his friends' lives is absolute and non-negotiable. And in the world of One Piece, that's the view that tends to win. It's the philosophy that bends the world around it.
It's the engine of the whole story. While they're having this deeply personal, philosophical argument in the middle of a war zone, Pearl decides he's had enough of all this drama. He's like, okay, that was weird. Back to fighting. He sees them both distracted and decides to end it right there. He sets his pearl-covered fists ablaze.
A classic villain move. Take advantage of the heroes fighting amongst themselves. He sees an opening to eliminate two major threats in one go. He lunges forward to attack them both.
But he doesn't get there. Someone steps in the way. A flash of black. A clank of metal. It's Jin.
And this is where things get really interesting. The whole chapter pivots on this moment. Jin, who has been silent this whole time, just watching from the sidelines with this pained, conflicted look on his face, finally makes his move.
He doesn't even say a word at first. He just blocks the fiery attack with his tonfa. No effort. Just brings them up and stops the attack cold. Pearl is stunned. He's completely baffled. He asks Jin what he's doing, why he's getting in the way of the plan. Jin, what is the meaning of this?
And Jin just looks at him, completely cold, with this dead-eyed stare, and says something like, "Don't interfere." The tone is chilling. This isn't a friendly suggestion. It's a command.
Then he swings. No fancy moves, no named attack, just one clean, brutal hit. He smashes one of his tonfa right into Pearl's iron shields, and the impact is so great it just shatters them and sends Pearl flying, completely unconscious. The shields that were impervious to bullets and swords just explode.
He takes out one of Krieg's top commanders in a single blow, effortlessly, just to clear the stage. It's not even a fight, it's a statement. He is swatting a fly.
That's when you realize just how strong Jin actually is. It completely reframes him. We saw him starving and broken on the brink of death. We haven't seen him at full strength, and he just one-shot a guy who was giving Sanji a pretty tough time, even if Sanji wasn't fighting back properly. It's a huge power scaling moment.
It immediately reestablishes the power dynamic. It reminds us that Don Krieg didn't survive the Grand Line because of guys like Pearl. He survived because he had genuinely powerful, loyal men like Jin at his side. Jin is the real second in command of this fleet for a reason. He's dangerous.
And then comes the line, the absolute gut punch of a line that ends the chapter. Sanji is looking at him, and you can see the hope on his face. He's probably thinking Jin is repaying the debt, that he's saving him just as Sanji saved him. But Jin turns to him. His face is just grim, shadowed, and he says that he'll be the one to kill Sanji.
He didn't save Sanji from Pearl. He reserved the right to kill Sanji for himself. It's a terrifying form of respect. He sees Pearl as unworthy of taking Sanji's life. He believes that if Sanji must die, it should be at the hands of someone who understands his value.
Chills, man. Absolute chills. The conflict in that guy is just tearing him apart. You can see it in his eyes. He respects Sanji. He owes Sanji his life. But his captain, the man he's followed through hell, gave him an order, and his loyalty to Krieg, for now, is winning.
It's another clash of duties, which is why the chapter title is so perfect. It mirrors the Luffy-Sanji conflict. Jin's personal debt of gratitude versus his duty to his captain, Sanji's duty to Zeff versus Luffy's belief in the duty to live. Everyone is trapped by their own code.
Jin is essentially saying, the kindness you showed me was real, and I respect you for it. So much so that I will be the one to end your life, not this clown. It's so twisted and so perfectly in character for this brutal pirate world. It's not just about good versus evil. It's about conflicting loyalties, and that's way more interesting.
It raises the stakes immensely. The fight is no longer just about the Baratie. It's become deeply personal. The grand battle has now focused into a one-on-one duel with immense emotional weight. Now it's Sanji versus Jin, the man he saved versus the man who has to kill him.
What a cliffhanger. Oda is just a master of ending a chapter on a note that makes you desperate for the next one. It's a perfect little 3-act structure right in the middle of a battle. Act 1, Sanji's martyrdom. Act 2, Luffy's chaotic intervention. And Act 3, Jin's tragic betrayal. Bam. Chapter over. See you next week. Incredible.
A problem, a chaotic solution, and a chilling consequence. Beautifully done.
Before we get to predictions, Oda's author comment this week was, I bought an Akiko Wada album. She is the soul shoutin' singer. She shouts from her soul.
I have a feeling Oda appreciates passionate people. It shows in his writing. Akiko Wada is a famous singer in Japan with a very powerful, soulful voice. He's drawn to that kind of raw, unfiltered expression of emotion.
You can feel it. He loves characters who put their whole chest into what they believe, whether it's singing or fighting or cooking. It's the soul of the series. Luffy, Sanji, and Jin, they're all shouting from their soul in this chapter, in their own ways.
Speaking of what you believe, we saw two very different philosophies clash this chapter. Let us know in the comments whose side you're on. Luffy's absolute belief in the value of a friend's life, or Sanji's unshakable duty to a dream and a debt.
Ooh, that's a good one. It's the classic needs of the many versus the needs of the few, except here it's the value of the living versus the value of a legacy. All right, predictions for chapter 60? What do you think is coming next?
Okay, my first prediction is that the fight between Jin and Sanji will begin, but it won't be a straightforward one. I think Jin will have the upper hand physically. We just saw him one-shot Pearl. He's clearly a monster. But he'll hesitate. His movements will be torn. Every time he has a chance to land a fatal blow, he'll see the face of the man who gave him food when he was dying, and he won't be able to. The fight will be more psychological than physical.
I see that. My first one is that the other chefs, Patty and Carne, are going to try and jump in to help Sanji against Jin. They were already willing to fight and die for the restaurant. They're not going to stand by and watch their friend get executed by the enemy's number 2. They'll grab their meat cleavers and their cannons, but I think Zeff will stop them. He'll hold out his arm and say, stay out of this. This is the brats' fight. He'll understand that this is a conflict of honor and debt that Sanji has to resolve himself.
That feels right. It would isolate the two fighters and emphasize the personal stakes. My second prediction is that this conflict, watching Sanji get beaten by a man he saved, will be the trigger for Sanji's full backstory. Zeff, seeing this twisted display of loyalty and debt play out, will finally tell Luffy and the others the story of how he and Sanji ended up on that rock, how he really lost his leg, and what Sanji truly owes him, or perhaps what he owes Sanji. It's the perfect dramatic moment for the reveal.
Oh, 100%. The flashback is coming. That's a lock. Okay, my second prediction, Luffy is done with the small fry. He's let Sanji have his moment, but now he sees the real threat. While Jin and Sanji are occupied, Luffy is going to turn his attention directly to the final boss. He's going to walk across the floating debris, plant his feet in front of Don Krieg, and declare their fight is next. No more games, no more commanders, just captain versus captain. He's taking out the head of the snake himself.
I like that, cleaning up the board while the other pieces are in motion. My final prediction is that Don Krieg, seeing his top commander now distracted fighting their target, will become impatient and decide to end this himself. But not by fighting Luffy directly. He's going to reveal his trump card. We keep hearing about his massive arsenal and his dirty tricks. I think he's about to unleash his most infamous weapon, a poison gas bomb. He'll threaten to kill everyone on the sea. His own men, the chefs, Luffy, everyone if they don't surrender the ship and Zeff's journal.
Bro, that would be cold. A true scorched earth tactic. That's exactly the kind of dishonorable thing a guy like Krieg would do. If I can't have it, no one can. Okay, my final prediction is a bit of a long shot, but it builds on your flashback idea. I think Zeff is going to say something that gets through to Sanji. Not about the past, but about the future. He's going to tell him that his real dream wasn't just owning the Baratie, it was seeing Sanji find his own dream, the All Blue, and that dying here, shackled to Zeff's past, would be the ultimate betrayal of Zeff's sacrifice. He's going to give Sanji permission to live for himself and to leave.
The emotional climax, releasing him from his self-imposed prison of debt. I could absolutely see that happening.
That would be the final piece Sanji needs to truly become a Straw Hat.
It's all coming to a head. Debts, dreams, and destruction. Can't wait to see who's right.
We'll find out next time. For Inherited Dawn, I'm Robin.
And I'm Franky. See you on the high seas.